Welcome to Test, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, taking a look at my video here. So what I have for you guys right now is the round 2 game between Salem A.R, Saleh, and Wesley. So, taken from the Goldmoney Asian Rapid. So, yes, it is a very roller coaster, interesting game. It is definitely not the typical, kind of like slow grinding type situations that you see sometimes. And it just further proves to you that computers are just like, they're crazy. Computers are like, yeah, you're crazy, you're good. But you're like, what? Anyway, so for all of my people in the Philippines, I would say Mabuhay, Kamusta na, Aking Makaibigan, Masaya Komukiti Kang Muli. Appreciate you guys very much for coming and taking a look at my video. As always, if anybody who is coming from United Arab Emirates or who does speak Arabic, I will say Assalamu alaikum to you. And Kefa Halik Siddiqui or Kefa Alkam Siddiqan. And I say, I say Fariki for my people. I call them my team. That's not completely correct, but, my guys know what I mean. So, Kefa Alkam Fariki. Appreciate you guys very much. And if you guys are ready to go, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have in this game. So we got D4, knight comes to F6, got C4, E6, knight C3, bishop to B4. So we do have the Nimzo Indian defense, very famous opening. And like I always say, I mean, you're not really worried about bishop takes here, pawn takes, because, you're going to be getting rid of this pawn at some point. You have the ability to swing the rook to B1, and you have this open file and stuff. So everything is everything. So we do see A3, bishop takes C3 with check, pawn takes C3, and we see C5. Of course, if you're allowed to get, like let's say E4, queen to C2, maybe some F3s in, you're going to have like the most gigantic pawn center ever. So that's definitely not something that black wants to allow. So, we are going to challenge that with C5. And so we do see F3 in this position. Now, don't get in the habit of doing this. Like, this is definitely dangerous to do, because you do like leave your king way open. And also the king is stuck in the center of the board. You don't really have a great way of attacking it at the moment. You can try to move the knight out of the way and maybe put a queen H4 down, but you got G3 and you're pretty good to go. We do see D5 coming. So as you can see, black is just trying to do everything they can to try to get rid of all the pawns in the center of the board. They don't want white to have that nice advantage in space. Have more movability for their pieces and everything. So we do see pawn takes D5, knight takes D5. We see pawn takes C5, and then we see queen to A5. A very common move. I mean, you're definitely threatening to take this pawn. You're also threatening just to go ahead and just take that pawn back, immediately. A lot of the times you do see knight to D7 as well, so that's definitely something you can do. But we see E4, and it's probably not beneficial to take here because you're going to be looking at bishop to D2. And that can be a pretty annoying pin. So we do see knight coming back to F6. We see bishop to E3, defending the pawn, but also giving this one the ability to be taken. We do see castles, king coming to F2. We weren't really worried about, a check here because you were going to go king to F2. So a lot of times when you see like a F3 type situation, you are creating kind of like a little space for your king to come and try to hide in. And then so we see king to F2, knight F to D7, just attacking, double attacking this pawn here. So as you can see, black doesn't really have the best way to try to defend it. We see A4, knight takes C5, we see queen to D6. Pretty nifty. I mean, placing a double attack on this knight over here. So we see knight takes A4, and there really isn't a good way to pin this. I mean, you can try to come back with your queen like this, but you're going to be looking at B6 or not B6, B5. Actually, no, you're not going to be looking at that. Oh, probably, no, yeah, bishop here. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there we go. That's what it's going to come. You're not going to see B5. It's just going to be taken. So we do see knight to E2. We see bishop down to D7. Kind of like what I said earlier, but just in a little bit better, move order. So we do see H4. Rook comes to C8. We see H5. So like I said before, I mean, if you want to see like the typical like random, just like everybody develops their pieces and we kind of get into a draw, it's not this game. I mean, look, this king is on F2. You got this queen that's kind of in a pin, not a deadly pin though. You just have like this pawn getting thrown off the board. It's crazy. So we do see queen back to C7. Black would actually like a trade in this position because they are up a pawn. So, I mean, why not? So we decline that with queen to d2. We see h6, you know, making sure that we don't have any like kind of, you know, pawns ripping our position open on the king side. Because as you guys can tell, you know, there's a lot of pieces on this queen side for black, but there aren't really a lot on the king side. So the king is a little bit vulnerable. So we do see g4. We got f6. Rook comes to d1. We see b5. Bishop comes to g2. So finally, after 20 moves, you see white has been able to get their, you know, get their pieces developed, to get their king in some type of relative safety, and we are good to go. So we got knight back to b6. The bishop comes to f4. We see e5. Bishop takes h6. So this is like, it's kind of crazy. Like bishop takes h6. Pawn takes h6. We see queen takes h6. And then we see queen to c5 with check. Because why not deliver a check? You know, white is down an entire piece here. So, you know, checks are actually beneficial. You know, especially if you want to try to come back here with the queen and trade, you're just going to be down an entire piece. So we do see knight to d4. And we have reached a point in the game that if you do want to pause the game, pause the video and see if you can, you know, figure out a good move for black to play here. Go ahead and do so. All right, cool. So the good thing to actually do in this position is actually go queen to f8. This is just one of the options. There are a lot of different options that you can play. Queen to f8 is just one of them, just, you know, further threatening another trade, which is something that white absolutely does not want. But what you absolutely, well, I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world, but what you really, really don't want to do is actually capture on d4. It might seem like, hey, man, I'm just getting another piece. But the problem that you have is that you have all these pieces over here that are, you know, just not fully developed. So you're actually kind of playing down a little bit of material as black. And this actually gives white either the ability to draw the game or to actually try to like press for a win. And it's crazy because you're down like a crap load of material. So we would see queen to g6 with check, possibly king to f8, queen to f6 with check, king to e8, and we would see h6. So this was like really dangerous now. This pawn is getting pretty far down the board. And it's kind of hard for you to, you know, kind of, you know, unravel your pieces to get something rolling. So we would probably see pawn takes c3 with check, rook to d4, queen coming to e7. Queen to h8 with check, king down to f7, queen to g7 with check, king to e8, and then queen to g8 with check would actually be starting to give white a little advantage because queen would have to block on f8, and then you see h7, and you know, as you guys can see, this pawn is like dangerously close to queen. So I mean, you would probably see king to e7 and all kinds of trades, and so yeah, that is definitely not the avenue you want to go down. So like I said, we do see queen to f8, and we see queen to g6 with check, queen comes to g7, we see knight to f5, bishop takes f5, pawn takes f5, we do see knight to c6. So yes, black has finally started to kind of unravel their pieces and start to get into a better position, and it is kind of insane here because if you pretty much do a material count, you would see that white is up a pawn, but they're down an entire piece. So you're just kind of probably thinking like, man, you know, black is just doing like crazy great, right? Nah, the computer actually says in this exact position that that white is slightly better. And I have literally zero idea as to why. I mean, it just kind of seems like, I mean, you can just trade this queen off, and I mean, yeah, you take with the pawn and stuff like that, but it's like where's the crazy danger at? I don't know. I just feel like you can defend this like very well for black. But going forward, we do see f4, pawn takes f4, rook h to e1. We see knight to e5, and then we see the crazy rook takes e5, pawn takes e5, and then we see f6. Now, if we back up, like I said, this is the craziness of the computer, like saying like, nah, man, you're good. It literally gives queen to e6 check as triple zeros. Like, but look at the position. Like you have equal pawns, but you are down. Not only are you down a piece, but it's an exchange piece. So you're like down an entire rook, and the computer's like, no, it's triple zeros right here. I don't, man. I mean, computers are crazy, man. Like computers are like I said, I just don't understand. I mean, maybe I'm just not that good at chess. Like maybe I suck, but I don't understand how the computer can say, nah, man, you're good. Everything's triple zeros here. I don't know. It's crazy. But going back to what we had in the game, pawn takes e5, we do see f6. Queen takes g6, pawn takes g6. And this actually becomes the point of the game where things actually start going downhill for white. So the rook comes to d8, loving a trade. And so we avoid the trade. Rook goes to h1. We see rook down to d2 with check. King comes to e1, and we see rook taking g2. We see rook up to h7. Rook takes g4. Rook to g7, but unfortunately these checks are going to run out. King is going to sidestep to f8. Rook to f7 with check. King to e8. Rook to e7 with check. King to d8. And you can see that you have no more checks. We see g7, and then we see knight to d7. And we are threatening very seriously to just remove this pawn from existence. And you're not probably worried about, so if we kind of think about it, you're not really worried about like a pawn push here because you are going to be taking the, probably taking the rook. You're going to be queening here. I guess that is bad. You don't want to do that. Huh. What to do? I don't know what you do here. It seems like it's oh, I guess you just I guess you just take the pawn like for free. You got this, but I mean you have this. I mean this is good. You're good. You're safe. I just couldn't see the move for a second. That's me winging it, guys. But anyway, that is a very interesting roller coastery game. Like I said, if you want that like typical like grinding, boring, like win or draw, like this was not the game for you. So, but for all of my people in the Philippines, let me get these good mornings again. So maanyong buntag, mayad na agahan, naibeg na bigat, masantos ya kawason, marhe na aga, buenas dias, maanyong aga, mapia na uma, kapian kapano dios, mayap a abak. What is this next one? Maya na aga? Yes. Mapia agay, mapia kapapita, my big abukla, maraja na buntag, Maria my nat. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Okay, Malpe na aga, kasanyangan si ilobi. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna get him at some point, but it might take me a while. I don't know. But I appreciate you guys very much. Shukran, Sadikan, for anybody who is coming from an Arabic-speaking country. I appreciate you guys very much. Ma'asalama and pa'alam, and I will see y'all next time.